When you start up Pi Notifications, you'll notice that there's a new service that's been added to your system. I'm going to go ahead and run this services applet, and you should see there's a new service called Notifications. I'll go ahead and scroll down to the Pi section. Yeah, there we go. Pi Notification Scheduler. So that Pi Notification Scheduler that has the service name that you see in your training manual here. Let me show you this. It's this Pi Analytics Scheduler. That's the scheduler that's essentially triggering calculations. It's the one that's keeping track of the calculations, the triggers to those calculations, and the scheduling. If it's calendar-based scheduling or trigger-based scheduling, the scheduler is going to keep track of all that. Now there is a task that's going to be, or an application I should say, that's going to be kicked off when the calculation actually needs to be done. So if we take a look at Task Manager, you'll see in addition to this Pi Analytics Scheduler, there's also an application called Pi Analytics Processor that's going to handle the calculating of the actual number crunching that the notification is going to be doing, the actual the escalation of the emails, etc., etc. So you can think of this as the scheduler here, this service, as the thing that actually decides at what point in time do we go ahead and get this analytics processor involved. Either it's based on a time clock, or it's based on some kind of a change to an event. When that event triggers, then we go ahead and get this processor to run the rules, process whatever events, whether they're emails or some other notification delivery type or delivery channel. That's what the analytics processor is going to do. And we're going to create as many of these processes as we need to create in order to handle that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this Pi Notifications that we picture here on a separate machine, that does not have to run on the same machine that's running AF or the one that's running Pi at all. There is a restriction though within this machine here, on this notifications machine, you can only run one copy of notifications. Now, however, if you do have the need for more, kind of more horsepower out of notifications, there's no problem with installing a new box that's going to be running nothing but notifications against that same AF server. So, this can be a box that's running notifications. It is also going to be communicating with AF, the same AF server that this notifications box is communicating with. And that's not a problem. You can create as many of these computers as you want. So notifications many instances of notifications can be set up so that they're all pointing to the same copy of AF. And that's not a problem. Now also, one final point, you may notice that AF has several different databases, and each of these databases can have their own notifications set up. Well, that single copy of notifications is going to service all the notifications for a typical AF server. So as I said, you can you can have many different notifications boxes that are looking at the same AF server, but a single instance of notifications can address all of the requirements for all of the databases in a single AF server. So you can, you don't have to have multiple notifications instances just because you've got different AF databases. Yeah, as long as those AF databases are on the same AF machine, then that same notification server can take care of all those databases. You cannot, however, point a single instance of notifications to point to multiple AF servers.